Corbolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Corbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
All right, welcome to the Prophecy Code, guys. Today I got Jordan here who, man, what a transformation, my man.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm just grateful to be able to have had the opportunity to, buckle down for 90 days and have some accountability. So thanks for
Yeah,
putting it.
well, let's talk about the big picture stuff. So what was the total weight loss in the 12 weeks?
So I started at almost 202 pounds. I was 201.8, and I
Okay.
ended it at around 172.6. So it was about almost 30 pounds, something
Yeah,
like.
that's a lot of body fat to lose. And I assume you kind of recomped a little bit because your after picture, you look pretty muscular.
Yeah, I mean, I maintained my strength pretty much throughout the entire thing. But yeah, I don't know, man.
You have a history of playing sports and lifting weights before this challenge. Did you already have a decent base of muscle?
I've always lifted weights.
Okay.
I mean, I've obviously, had major long layoffs over my life, but like I would say when I was 19, 20, I just did a dirty bulk, and I swear I kept that. Like my
Yeah.
body remembered that like for 20 years.
Well,
So
it's funny. You're not wrong. So you actually changed, this is one of the things like going back to school and studying exercise physiology. You actually change the DNA of your body when you train. So
God,
even if you atrophy a muscle, when you start training again, you get back to where you previously were within a few weeks, even if it took you years to build that. So that's one of the great, and this is when people question like the before and afters. They're probably looking at your before of a guy who might not want to take his shirt off at the beach and the after of a guy who can't wait to take his shirt off at the beach and go, that's impossible. But when you get into the mechanics of like losing body fat and recomping a little bit along the way, it this is where you get these kind of remarkable transformations.
yeah, and that's what I've noticed. I mean, in that picture, in my before picture, I don't think I could have hit the floor and done 20 push-ups. Like I
Right.
was so my body composition was so bad. I just was so weak. And that was one of the reasons why I joined the challenge is because I just lost, I was gaining weight
What
rapidly and losing strength.
what put you over the hurdle to place you and win some money in this competition was your back, though, your lower back. That's, for anyone that's looking for like a way to win this competition, when that back just disappears and I'm sure you probably lost several pant sizes, like cinching that belt. Like to me, that can't be faked. That is for men the challenge. So I mean, you got a whole new wardrobe right now?
Yeah, I haven't even had a chance to go pick up new clothes, but I literally drilled a new hole in my belt this morning because I'm like everything's baggy and I look kind of frumpy, and so I need a new wardrobe for sure.
Yeah, my first time I dieted down and did a bodybuilding show, I remember someone in my office one day was like, "Hey, did you stop working out?" I was like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Well, yeah, your clothes are all baggy and your face looks skinny." And I showed them a picture of me like a couple weeks out from a bodybuilding show, and they were like, "That's you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh my God." I was like, "Yeah, I'm like 7% body fat. I just look like a skeleton in my clothes." So I went and bought all new clothes that weekend that fit.
Yeah, right, and I bet you looked better. Like you're probably not
Yeah,
getting.
everything taper. I would actually, because when you have like that, like I'm a big guy and I was always lifting weights and playing sports, but I had like the belly that hung over. So when I put my belt on, I didn't like tucking my shirts in because the shirt would have a fat roll in it. And
Right,
then when you get, my waist gets down to like a 31, I want my shirt tucked in because I've got the V taper and there's nothing coming out from my pants but the shirt.
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, let's talk about the starting kind of time frame for what you were doing with nutrition.
Mhm.
And obviously you probably made some adjustments along the way. So let's talk about your nutrition, your diet when you started, and did you use the diets we provided? How did you do it?
So, first of all, I mean, I do have a history of, kind of I guess you could call it yo-yo dieting, right? So I'm actually pretty militant when I decide to start losing weight. So I've done
Okay.
this before. I have some background in that. Um, as far as, so you're just asking like as far as, where
Like, do you know where your kind of your calories were to start, and how did you manage your nutrition?
Yeah, so I knew where my calories were as far as like I had a good idea of what I was eating, like where I was at the start of the challenge. But I went back to like past times when I did decide to start losing weight, and I looked at how much activity, I had, how many steps I had, because you can go back years, right? And look at all
Mhm.
that stuff. And I was just taking a look at that, and then I was able to work with my coach to figure out like, okay, where would I need to be in order to go ahead and start losing weight? And
Yeah.
so I kind of just went back to those numbers, and then we kind of hovered at, that same number for a couple weeks, and then we started to make adjustments after that.
Do
So,
you do you, do you recall what some of the numbers were, like protein, carbs, fats, any of that?
oh yeah, man. I mean, I remember pretty much all of it. I mean, we started around, and this is really, I thought it was really high, but we started around 2650, I think. Let's call it,
Okay.
mid 2600 calories to start. I
That's
was
pretty good for at 200 pounds. I mean, you're eating a decent amount. It's not like
Yeah,
you're.
I mean, I remember telling my wife, I was like, I feel like I'm eating too much because I was satiated. I was having big meals, so it was a good part of the competition where I was
Yeah.
like, fed. And I was eating, 200, 220, probably 230 grams of protein. I was trying to keep the protein really high as
And
well.
that's going to fill you up. People don't realize when you get your protein up, your meals become so much more volume to your food.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've always been, a guy that eats like, a large portion of chicken, 8, 9
Yeah.
ounces or whatever it is, beef, stuff like that. So I kept that really high. And then, we stayed there for a couple of weeks, I'd say probably 2 weeks, and I increased my steps. So that's how we started to, initially start to get some weight loss off. And I,
What were
started.
you doing for steps? Were you literally just like going outside, walking in your house, just like finding time
So,
to?
yeah, well, first of all, I bought a $100 walking pad. I watched all the podcasts of the, past winners and whatnot. So I bought a $130 walking pad from Amazon, got here the day that the challenge started. So I just literally stood there and worked. I'm a real estate agent. So I'm spending a lot of time at my desk on calls and things like that. So I literally just started walking on that. And then I would do structured cardio and weight training. I built a little gym downstairs many years ago, and so I have all the weights and everything, and that's how I get my weight training in.
Let's talk about how aggressive you got. Like towards the end, what was the calories as low as they got, kind of the cardio or steps as high as they got?
Yeah, so I started with about, probably averaging between 15 and 20,000 steps a day, which
That's a lot.
yeah,
For
I
those
mean,
that don't realize, I did the math one time. I think is it 5,000 steps is an hour of walking? That sounds right to me, but I
yeah,
might
it's
be.
like it's like 5 or 6,000 steps.
Okay,
It's like 1,000 steps for 10 minutes of walking at like 3 mile
there
per
you go.
pace.
Yep.
So basically, when I started getting hungry, even though I was eating like those higher calories, the 2,600, I started getting really hungry because my body wasn't used to it. And I'm not talking, I wasn't hoofing it, like I wasn't going fast, but I
Right.
was just that additional steps. It's a lot of movement for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
it's shocking how, when you first start walking, how much it positively impacts you. It almost feels like you're cheating. Like this shouldn't be possible.
Dude, I have never walked as much as I have on a fat loss or weight loss challenge. And it's because back when I was losing weight and gaining muscle and doing a lot of stuff, there's a stigma around cardio. It's like,
Of course.
don't do cardio, don't do cardio. And so I kind of took that as don't do cardio, you got to lower your calories via diet. And I just think that that's some just really bad, advice. And you start seeing it come out through recently about walking and getting those steps in.
I think the most viewed video on my channel is 3 or 4 million views, and it's literally me just talking about walking to get shredded because uh, it when I got my treadmill, I said I'm going to do an entire contest prep just walking. And previously, I was doing all kinds of stuff, high intensity cardio. And when I just started getting up and walking every day, I remember thinking like I haven't even adjusted my diet in forever, and I'm just getting leaner and leaner. And I would also feel better. Like a walk for me was like it would lift me up where I could work more. I wouldn't need more caffeine, and I wouldn't be as hungry. It's like walking. It's very profound. And if you think back, like when we were younger and we were in our best shape, like I always talk about like high school. I don't think people realize, when you go to high school, you were walking all day from class to class. And now we literally drive to work, sit down, get to our job, sit down, drive home, sit down. If you don't make yourself move, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I was at 3,000 steps to begin.
same.
I
I
mean,
work from home.
2,800 sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I literally would go to the kitchen, come sit down. That was my day.
Yeah, mine too. And so I think that hunger response was just like, obviously from a lot of movement, but so I started at the 2,600, doing a ton of steps, and then I ended, I think you asked me what my calories were, toward the end. I ended at like 1,700 something.
I mean, that's still 10 times your body weight if you were 170. I mean, that's where I, as a coach, go, okay, if we're at that low, we probably need to be having like a free meal or like a high carb day to like trigger some progress. But if
Yeah.
you're walking and doing low calorie, I find it's much more manageable than if you're doing something like super high intense. Um, and also, you had a deadline.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I had a
There's nothing
deadline.
wrong with being hungry when you can see the deadline.
That's right. That's right. And I actually had two refeed days as well. And so I worked with
Oh,
Steven.
perfect.
And so I was able to kind of, take those back to back sometimes if I was really hungry. But man, it was tough. Like the 1,700, when you get that low, it was
Yeah.
difficult. I have some complaints in the household about me just kind of being snappy, and I have a 2-year old, and
Low blood sugar. I
yeah,
years ago
yeah,
wondered, I was like, why do I get grumpy when I get low body fat and what is the mechanism? And it's actually low blood sugar. It actually
really,
creates it,
okay,
yeah, it's shortened. So they actually did a study at USF while I was there. And they tracked something, I forget what it was called. There's an actual term for it, like in science, where you track basically like moodiness, how quick you are to respond. And yeah, like you're much more triggered to be angry when you have low blood sugar. So, and this is, like that joke, that commercial, just have a Snickers. Like that's actually true. Like if you're
right,
being a
right.
brat, have something to eat, you'll feel better.
Right, absolutely. And I wish I could, but
Yeah.
I was pushing all of my calories to very specific meals,
Yeah.
so I just didn't have the macros for to be able to screw around kind of toward the end there. So,
So I think the test of any challenge for me is not just how successful you are for those 90 days, but how has your response been since the challenge? How are you feeling now?
yeah, I'm starting to finally, it's been a couple weeks, I'm starting to finally get my moodiness has gone away. I'm starting to increase my calories slowly. So I'm working with
Okay.
Steven to like make sure that I'm slowly but surely increasing my calories. I'm back up to about, as of today, 2,500 calories,
Okay.
a good amount here. So, but the funny thing is this morning I weighed in at almost 169. So I've lost, 4 or 5 pounds since the challenge. And
So the challenge ended, you brought food up, cardio down, and now you're continuing to drop weight.
yeah, yeah. And we think I was talking to Steve, and he was thinking, well, because I was so aggressive kind of during that last 2 weeks, that
Yeah.
my body's always taken, a week or two, it's always behind. So, when I go really low calories, then the next week or the week after, I'll see a big drop, a big whoosh. And so that's kind of what I think what happened. But I'm maintaining at this point, I think around 170-ish.
Yeah, I've noticed this phenomenon with my athletes that get on bodybuilding stages that once the body fat comes off, I can bring food up, cardio down, and they will start dropping more weight. My theory is that as you called it your mood, but as your mood goes up, so does your non-exercise activity. You're more likely to goof around, to, move your hands, so you get more active. Your sleep improves. And then I think, you can also expect things like thyroid function, hormones that have to do with metabolism they're probably getting a little bit better at the same time as you're adding a little more food. So you might actually be kind of outpacing the calories you're adding aren't keeping up with the demands that you're increasing. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously Stevens, I didn't know he was your coach. That's fantastic. And when you said 2 refeed days, I thought that sounds like a me strategy. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. So, I mean, you've got the summer coming up. You got any plans, man? You're going to go show off?
I don't know, not really. I just think, I mean, my wife said like she's talking to our daughter and she's like, "Oh, daddy likes to walk around with his shirt off more now because, I
Yeah.
do it feels so much better to just feel, like good in your own skin and
Sure.
feel lean. I am really lean, so I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do there. Am I going to add some weight? Am I going to, lift and try to put on some muscle weight? But yeah, man, I mean, I'd love to go out and take my shirt off. I mean, I don't have any, like you said, I don't have any belly, and
Right.
it's just like I feel a certain sense of accomplishment. But I realized, and I said this in my essay, is it really was the journey that is the goal. And you don't realize that till you get to the end, and then you realize
Right.
like, hey, I got some abs that I've never seen before. But if I just go back to what I was doing, then what was the point of the 90 days? And so
Right.
I'm really being cognizant and working with Steven to reverse out of this thing correctly so that I can maintain this. So,
Yeah, I think, and ultimately, like what I've always told people is it's a lot easier to maintain low body fat than it is to achieve it. But you can't just put body fat right back on because you can't, that's very easy to do. But if you take the time to come out of a deficit properly, yeah, I don't know. It feels like a cheat code to be like, oh, I only walk 30 minutes a day and I eat 3,000 calories and I can walk around at 8%, 9% body fat. But it's taken me 30 years to figure this crap out, and this is why I love these challenges because you have to have a few things. You have to have, accountability. You have to have a deadline,
mhm.
to have a reason to tell people in your life, like, hey, maybe I'm going to skip out on this, or I'm not going to have this drink, or I'm going to get to bed early because I got cardio and a training session in the morning. Um, so man, it's just very exciting and fulfilling for me to see that obviously you've achieved this and you're kind of exploring what's next for you. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
did you
Thanks
did
for
you
putting
take
it out
part
there.
in the community? Because John, who I just interviewed, was like he loved the community.
Man, I'm to be honest, I was a little bit of a lurker, like
Yeah,
and so I like kind of the quiet, suffering of, waking up and just getting it done and knowing
yeah.
that nobody's knowing that nobody cares, nobody knows what I'm doing, but I can show them at the end. And so no, I didn't. I mean, but I was in there reading a lot of the comments and looking at the posts, and that did actually motivate me. As a matter of fact, every day during lunch, I would sit down, eat a nice lunch, and go through the Facebook group.
So
And
that's exactly what John said he was doing. He was before bed, he would go in the Facebook group and read the posts.
yeah,
And he would
exactly.
be like, here I am complaining about walking my dogs 5 times a day, and this woman has 3 kids, a full-time job, and has like an hour a day max to like do her thing, and she's getting it done. And so he said
Yeah,
it was very motivating. So, well, that's
definitely.
awesome. Well, I'd love to have you in our next group, even if you just want to jump in and just provide some, kudos and support for uh for the challenge. I always love to have the past winners in to give their kind of insight.
Yeah, I'm more inclined. It's weird to say, but I'm more inclined to kind of, give some, advice or feedback now that
Yeah,
this is over. So yeah, I mean, and the reason that's why I'm doing this with you is because I just, I've struggled with, I wouldn't say struggled with my weight like my entire life. I've always been I've never been like obese or anything,
right.
but I have struggled on the train of lose a lot of weight, gain it all back.
Yeah,
And so, if anybody's kind of in that position where they want to take it off and keep it off, like I would love to contribute to that so that I can motivate
awesome,
myself as well.
awesome. All right. Well, I'll make sure that we get the team to put you in the new group. It's starting up in a couple days here, towards the beginning of next week. This video will probably be out by then, but I appreciate your time today, Jordan, and congrats, man. And if you ever need anything, just let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for putting it on. Shout out to Steven. Thank you for helping me get third, man, as well. And you guys are doing great things, so keep it up.
Awesome. Congrats, Jordan.
Hey, thanks a lot.